مين على مصر مين يبعت سلامي في كلمتين يا هلا الله مشتاق لناسها الطيبين ودي ياما فيها مخلصين يا ما شاء الله وأصغر العلماء تقدر تقول ما تشاء الله ندعي لهم رب السماء وقولوا آمين إن شاء الله إن شاء الله 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 يا ربي الله الله ومن قلبي اتوضى كده من صلى الفجر ولفت مصر وحواليها الله 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 على الأزهر الله 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 أكبر من الدنيا كمان أكتر لو قلت وصفها أنا مش هنصفها وكفيها.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful, to Him we belong and to Him we shall return. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite wisdom and in His infinite mercy to send peace and blessings upon our beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us beneficial knowledge, and we seek refuge in Allah azza wa jal from knowledge that does not benefit. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy upon our parents, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the hardships from upon our brothers and sisters all across the world, in Syria, Burma, in India, Africa, and all across the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the hardship from upon them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify our intentions and to make us righteous and to make us of those who use their knowledge in a beneficial manner. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us to the highest of heights in the afterlife with our beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So last time we stopped off at the Imam al-Juwayni breaking down al-kalam and explained to us what kalam or speech is classified into. So he said yanqasimu, speech is classified into amr wa nahi. Amr being commands and nahi being prohibitions. For example, qum. Qum is a command. It means stand. Okay? This is a type of speech. La taq'ud, don't sit. This is a prohibition. This is a type of speech, nahi. He said it also consists of khabar. Nahu ja'a zaydun. Khabar being a declarative statement. Zayd came. This is a declarative statement. Or istikhbar. For example, istikhbar being question. Hal qama Zayd? Did Zayd stand? So, and then he says, for example, وَيَنْقَسِمُ أَيْضًا, it is also classified into tamanni. Tamanni being wish or hope. A very famous stanza of poetry, أَلَا لَيْتَ الشَّبَابَ يَعُودُ. I wish that my youth would come back. Well, youth never returns. Obviously this is a wish that will never be fulfilled, but this is a type of speech. وَعَرْضٍ نَحْوَ أَلَا تَنْزِلْ عِنْدَنَا, don't you come, and why don't you come and spend time with us? This is just a suggestion. It's not actually an amr or anything. It's a suggestion. Or qasam نحو والله لا أفعلن كذا, I swear that I will do such and such. Qasam is a swear. So there's a point that I want to mention here, and that is, generally speaking, there are two types of speech, and the ulama of balagha will illustrate this point. They say that the types of speech that we have are khabar and insha. Right? Khabar being declarative statements, and insha you can define them as being creative statements. A very simple way to distinguish between khabar and insha: khabar is something that when I say it, the person in front of me can say that you're either truthful or that you're lying. So for example, if I were to say, Ja'a Zayd, Zayd came, you can tell me, you're not telling the truth. Or yes, you're right, Zayd came. But if I were to say, for example, did Zayd come? You can't tell me you're lying. It doesn't make sense. I'm asking a question. It's not a declarative statement. If I were to say, you know, Zayd, stand up, can he say you're lying? No, it doesn't make sense. It's a creative, it's an insha. So forms of speech that I can classify them, or I can look at them and say that you're telling the truth or you're lying, these are khabar. And forms of speech that you cannot actually declare as being a truthful or a untruthful statement, those are insha. Okay? And I just want to take a pause and point something out, that Imam al-Juwayni, when he came, I mean, think of this, when he came to now begin actually jumping into the subject matter of usul al-fiqh, he started off by speaking about speech and type of, you know, the types of speech, right? And what we will find is that he'll spend some time talking about many linguistic based issues. And you know, in other books of usul, and especially more advanced books of usul, or even later on, the authors of usul al-fiqh after Imam al-Juwayni, they broke down the books of usul slightly differently. They started off with Quran. So you open up books of usul, you'll find the first thing al-Quran, second thing as-Sunnah, and so on. But nonetheless, Imam al-Juwayni had a hikmah, a reason for doing this. And one possible reason is understanding that one of the key components to actually being a faqih, or being someone who can deduce rulings, is having a strong command of language. Because if you don't have a strong command of language, then how are you going to understand Al-Quran Al-Arabi, the Arabic Quran, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it in the Quran, in His book? You know, it is written in Arabic. The Prophet ﷺ, he was an Arabian, he was an Arabian prophet. He spoke the Arabic language. He acted, and everything that we know of him is written in Arabic. And he spoke in Arabic, and he explained to us things in Arabic. This doesn't mean that, you know, Arabs are better than non-Arabs and so on. No, this is not the point. The point is to understand that this is the language that Allah Azza wa Jal chose to reveal His book in. And this is the Prophet, and this is the region, these are the people that the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, chose to reveal this book to. So, if we want to come and understand this book, we have to have a very deep and nuanced understanding of the Arabic language. You know, we have so many sciences within the Arabic language. We have nahw, grammar, balagha, rhetoric, sarf, morphology, and many other sciences that deal with the specifics of the Arabic language. So that you start off understanding some of the basics and then getting more advanced and more advanced. And the more advanced you become, the more you realize, wow, the Arabic language is so rich and it really requires a lot, right? And so if I want to understand the Quran in the sense of understanding it to bring about legal rulings, then I have to learn the Arabic language. I cannot start deducing legal rulings without knowing the Arabic language. This is not a matter of, you know, who's better than who. No. It's just a matter of, this is the book of Allah and it's written in the Arabic language, and the Arabic language is very involved and it's very rich. So if we're going to engage it so that we can deduce rulings, let us learn it very well. Okay, so I just wanted to you know, take this moment to share that, so that as we learn and as we understand, as we continue to grow as students, we realize that, you know, hold on, let me take a step back before I decide to, you know, make a claim about this or that, and understand that this is a very weighty matter, as we've mentioned in the past. So he says that it is consists of, or classified into, commands and prohibitions, declarative statements, questions, and then he says ardin, like we mentioned, suggestions. You know, why don't you come over, for example? This is a suggestion, come over. Am I ordering you? No. The ulama, sometimes when they come to distinguish between the different types of amr, specifically speaking, or talab, request, if they say that if the request is made from someone who is lower than you, that is a dua. So for example, Obviously, we're all lower than Allah Azza wa Jal. So when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's clearly from the lower to the higher. Allah Azza wa Jal being the higher, us being the lower. So we say, Ya Allah, if'al kada, I'm making dua. I'm requesting with a certain type of, recognition of lowliness and weakness, and that only you, Allah, can give me what I need. If two people who are in the same level, if I, for example, you and I were in the same level, and I come to you and I say, Muhammad, pick up your bag, right? They say that this is not necessarily an amr, but this is an iltimas. It's like almost like a request from someone who is, then they say if someone who is higher gives a command to someone who is lower, then that is an amr, that is a command, right? So if we're equal, it's iltimas. It's just kind of like altamisu mink, like, why don't you do this, right? If it's coming from higher to lower, it's a command. From lower to higher, it's dua. This is a type of classification of these things. Some scholars say no, that it actually can happen that from lower to higher can actually be a command, and they give the example of in the Quran Fir'aun with his people, and they commanded him, and so on, and other examples. But nonetheless, there are different ways to possibly consider this issue of commands and prohibitions. And he says, وَقَسَمْ نَحْوَ اللَّهِ لَأَفْعَلَنَا, I swear I will do so. Then he says, وَمِنْ وَجْهٍ آخَرٍ يَنْقَسِمُ إِلَى حَقِيقَةٍ وَمَجَازٍ. And from another perspective, it is classified into literal and figurative. فَالْحَقِيقَةُ مَا بَقِيَ فِي الْإِسْتِعْمَالِ عَلَى مَوْضِعِهِ وَقِيلَ مَا اسْتُعْمِلَ فِي مَا اصْطُلِحَ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْمُخَاطَبَةِ. He says, al-haqiqatu, that something is literal. So he says that speech is also classified into literal and figurative. And then he says something is literal when it is used according to its original coinage. فالحقيقة ما بقي في الاستعمال على موضعه الأصلي. Alright, something is literal when it is used according to its original coinage, its original usage. Alright? And I'll give examples for this right now. And it is also said, others say that it is literal when it is used according to the nomenclature of the community that is speaking. مَا اسْتُعْمِلَ فِيمَا اصْطُلِحَ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْمُخَاطَبَةِ. So, it is haqiqah when it is haqiqah urfiyah. We agree, for example, that this thing refers to this. Alright? And so that becomes a literal explanation of that. Let me give it, it'll be more clear with an example. The word dabba. Dabba literally meaning, linguistically speaking, means anything that walks on the earth. Anything that walks on the earth is a dabba. Okay? So I'm a dabba. Assalamu alaikum. When it comes linguistically speaking, I'm a dabba. A car is a dabba. A horse is a dabba. A donkey is a dabba, etc. But there is another. Now if you actually consider how people use the word dabba, dabba only refers to usually a donkey or some sort of animal, four-legged animal that walks. Right? So actually now if you call someone a dabba, you're insulting them. You're saying, a dabba came in. It's a very insulting thing. You're calling them an animal. You're calling them a donkey. Linguistically speaking, I'm correct to describe myself as a dabba. But urfan, al-haqiqa al-urfiyya, what has been agreed upon between people, no. It is actually something that refers to when you call someone a dabba, you're calling them an animal. Right? So what he's saying here is that a literal meaning can come in various ways. You can have a literal meaning based on linguistically, this is what it was placed to mean. So this is the haqiqa. This is the reality of this word. The haqiqa can also be urfiyya. In a little bit he'll also mention that haqiqa can be shar'iyya, and we'll get into that in a moment. So for example, one of the examples that Imam al-Juwayni, the Imam al-Mahalli gives to describe a haqiqa, haqiqa lughawiyya and haqiqa shar'iyya. For example, he says salah. The haqiqa lughawiyya, the linguistic reality of this word is what? Is prayer, is dua. But as we understand it to be the form of salah that we do, dhuhr or isha or so on, that is a haqiqa shar'iyya. That is a revelatory reality, right? We understand it to mean literally that thing as we know it to be, which is the prayer that we fulfill, Asr, Maghrib or Isha. That is a haqiqa, but it's shar'iyya. Okay? So then he continues to say, he says, وَالْمَجَازُ مَا تُجُوِّزَ عَنْ مَوْضُوعِهِ. He says, al-majaz, figurative speech. Something is figurative when it is extended beyond its original coinage. Alright? So, al-haqiqa is when we are referring to something or we are using something according to its original coinage. When I move beyond that original coinage and I use it for something else, then it becomes majaz. Alright? So now the example that I want to give makes more sense. The example of prayer. Haqiqatan, there are several things going on. Linguistically speaking, salah means dua. Figuratively speaking, it has been used for something else. But that something else has actually become a haqiqa, its own haqiqa, haqiqa shar'iyya. Right? So when a word is used for its original usage, it is literal. When you go beyond that original usage and use it in a different way, it is majaz, it is figurative. And he's going to get into each one of these and give us examples to make it much clearer. So he says, for example, now al-haqiqa. Al-haqiqa imma lughawiyya, meaning that the literal speech is either linguistic, meaning that the people of language placed it to mean this. For example, asad. Asad refers to what? The animal that we know, al-haywan al-muftaris, that animal that we know that is very powerful, it has all that hair, etc. وإما شرعية، والحقيقة إما لغوية وإما شرعية, or revelatory. بأن وضعها الشارع. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed a certain thing as a haqiqa. For example, like we said, salah, the haqiqa shar'iyya of salah is what we know. Those different prayers that we do, salah, dhuhr, isha, and so on. وإما عرفية. عرفية meaning customary. بأن وضعها أهل العرف. So عرفيا, we have agreed that customarily speaking, we have agreed that this is the haqiqa of this thing. Like I mentioned the example of dabba. Dabba linguistically means something, and then customarily means something else. There's something that's happening here, and I want us to pay very close attention. Both are haqa'iq. Both are literal meanings, meaning that when, let's say I go into a store, I go into a computer store, and I ask for a mouse. The haqiqa urfiyya in that store is what? Is that little machine that you click in it, plays on the screen and whatever. If I go into a computer store and I ask for a mouse, and he gives me a rodent, the little rodent that runs against the wall, he's going to be a little bit nutsy, right? You're going to be like, I don't want a mouse, I don't want a rodent, I want, the little thing that clicks. So the haqiqa urfiyya in that store, the haqiqa in that store is what? When I say mouse, I mean the clicker, right? But the haqiqa lughawiyya for the word mouse is what? Is the little rodent that we know, okay? And we know that linguistically speaking, mouse means something. But it was now taken from its linguistic usage and used for something else figuratively. Now, even though it was moved to this figurative realm, it became its own haqiqah, but it's a haqiqah urfiyah, customary haqiqah. We'll stop here inshallah, and we'll continue with the breakdown of haqiqah al-majaz next time. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira.
العلماء بذرهم متى شاء